What's the purpose for your existence? And it can't just be the bottom line. It has to be something bigger.
You know that moment when the day finally quiets down and instead of relaxing, your brain gets louder? The questions start showing up. Why am I so tired? Why does my anxiety feel different than it used to? Why does my life look fine but feel off? You don't have time to think about it during the day, so it waits for you at night. This is What the Shift, the podcast for those 2 a.m. thoughts you keep trying to ignore. The ones about exhaustion, people-pleasing, overfunctioning, boundaries, changing bodies, shifting identities, and the quiet realization that nothing is wrong. It just can't keep going the same way. I'm Gia Lacqua, and if it's been keeping you up at 2 a.m., it's trying to tell you something. Welcome to What the Shift. If you've been having that 2 a.m. moment when you realize something is shifting, you are in the right place. Welcome back to What the Shift. I'm your host, Gia Lacqua. Today's conversation is about something I think we're all kind of feeling right now, which is leadership is changing, it's evolving, and the model that got us to where we are is really not what's going to sustain us for our future. And my guest today brings a really powerful perspective on leadership through service. What I'm excited to explore is how that really intersects with something I think is missing in a lot of leadership conversations right now, which is self-leadership and responsibility. Anton Gunn is a sought-after keynote speaker and strategic advisor with a distinguished career that has spanned college, sports, public service, healthcare, and executive leadership. As a former C-level healthcare executive and senior advisor to President Barack Obama, he brings unparalleled insights into high-level decision-making and crisis management. Anton's expertise encompasses leadership development, organizational culture, corporate governance, diversity, and inclusion. He is leading authority on workplace culture and human capital strategy for leaders and boards in Fortune 500 companies and other large organizations. Anton, welcome to the show. So happy to have you join us today.
So happy to be here. So grateful for the opportunity.
I'm excited to dive into this conversation. So, Anton, tell us, you have held some incredibly influential leadership roles across healthcare, government, business, and all of it is so fascinating. But before we get into any of that, tell us a little bit about who is Anton underneath the titles and what led you to this work?
Yeah, great question and a great place to start. So who is Anton underneath all of that? Number one, I'm a son. My mom and my dad are important pillars for me to, frame up that I'm their firstborn son, their oldest son. I'm also a big brother. I'm the oldest of 4 boys, and I'll tell you about my shift in a second, and how I got to this place of wanting to lead is because the first time I knew I was a leader is because I was a big brother. My mom put my younger brother Sharon on the couch and said she had to go upstairs and feed the twins, and that she's putting my brother on the couch beside me. He's my responsibility. Don't let him fall. Don't let him get hurt. Don't let him stick his finger in the socket. Don't let anything happen to him, or I was going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And so I took that responsibility of protecting and supporting my brothers specifically and importantly. So I'm a big brother. The other 2 things is I'm a husband, been married to be 26 years in May of 2026. Will be 26 years. And then I'm the father of a daughter. I'm a girl dad. And so all of those things is who is underneath. Really care about the people in my life. And my journey of leadership started in a lot of spaces. But I think what I would share with you and your audience that cemented my commitment to service is that I come from a family of servants. I'm a 4th generation brat, great grandfather, both world wars, grandfather, World War II. My dad was in the Navy during Desert Storm and also in Vietnam. My uncle was in Vietnam. My dad's baby brother was in the Army. And my younger brother, Sharon, continued the tradition when he joined the Navy in January 2000. And we were all excited as a family for my brother to continue the family business of serving our country. But 10 months after my brother joined the United States Navy, he was killed by 2 Al-Qaeda suicide bombers in a terrorist attack aboard the USS Cole. And so 25 years ago, my brother was murdered by Islamic extremists, and they blew a 40 by 60-foot hole in the side of his ship, killing 17 sailors. He was one of the 17, injuring 39. And the others have had non-physical injuries over the last 25 years. And the pain of that made me want to quit doing everything that I was doing and go back home to Virginia to protect my brothers. Like my mom gave me the original instruction is that don't let anything happen to my brothers. And so I had this natural reflex of wanting to regress from the world and just protect the people that I care about. And most people would understand that. But I was also battling with my own depression, my own blame, because my brother joined the Navy because I told him to join the Navy. That our dad raised us, that, hey, you got other opportunities. I had to go into the military because that was my only way out. And so I want you all to go to college. I want you to do something else. And I went to college, played football in college. But Sharon was like, Anton, I don't really want to go to college. And I said, well, what do you want to do? He says, I want to be in law enforcement. I said, so, okay, well, just go apply. And he went and applied to two sheriff's departments, and they told him they loved him, but they would prefer him to have some college education. They like to hire officers with college education. And he was like, I didn't know I had to go to college to be a cop. I said, well, you don't. And I said, you can join the military. And said, if you do 4 years in the military, that would be equivalent to college. And so he says, you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. Join the Navy. If dad made it 22 years, I know you can make it 4 years. And my brother joined the Navy in January 2000, went off to basic training in February, got assigned to his ship in May. His ship left port in August, and he was killed in October. And last time I talked to him was September 21st. And it devastated me because I blamed myself for my brother's death, that it was my fault, that he would have never been in the Navy. He would have never been in that situation if it wasn't for me being the big brother and him doing what I told him to do, the same way I told him about everything, who to date, what color clothes to wear, what hip hop songs he could listen to. Like I was the biggest brother you could be of big brothers. And so I blame myself. But I realized that everything happens for a reason. I'm not a terrorist. I didn't plant the bomb in the boat. I wasn't over there in the Middle East. So I can't blame myself for something that happened. It happened. And there's a lot of reasons why it happened. Some of them related to leadership, and other reasons it happened because people who were in leadership roles were derelict in their duties. And then the final reason is that there's supposed to be purpose in my life for something greater um, than it was at the time. And my brother's service and sacrifice birthed something not only in me, but in my mom, in my brothers, in my father, that we have committed our lives to serving others in the deepest way we can possible. And that's been the manifestation of all the work that I do. It's how I serve leaders, help them to build diverse, high performing teams, build a great culture, and to become a leader that everybody admires and stake their claim on becoming legendary.
Incredible. Anton, thank you for sharing that story. And I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you to your brother, your family, the service. Your story is incredibly inspiring. Your brother had a calling, you
Yeah.
have a calling,
Yes.
you followed your purpose. And this is the essence of post traumatic growth.
Yes.
It's
Absolutely.
turning that pain into purpose and really helping others, turning something so tragic and unimaginable into bringing good and beauty into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I say to people, adversity is not about what you go through, it's what you grow through.
Yes.
And I can tell you that this was probably the greatest growth experience I could ever have. You said a lot of amazing things in my bio, and none of those things happened until after my brother made his sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice. So literally, the most of the success, meeting multiple presidents, working with big Fortune 500 companies, coaching mission-driven executives, building a successful keynote speaking business that has me in demand for healthcare organizations all across the country. All of those things happened after my brother made the ultimate sacrifice. And it's because I grew through the adversity that it placed on me. And so did other members of my family in the same way.
Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
And Anton, you are the world's leading authority on socially conscious leadership. And I want to just start there
Yeah.
because I don't know that a lot of people know what that means. So, talk to us a little bit about how you define socially conscious leadership and what distinguishes it from traditional leadership
Yeah.
models.
So I would say the shortest definition of the context of socially conscious leadership is recognize that all of us have some level of social blindness in our society, in our work, and what we do. And here's the best way I explained it. Let's say you got hired at a company today. Okay. Today is your first day at work, then you're completely blind to the history, context, and the culture of that organization. You only know the person who hired you and the team that they hired you for, what you were able to read on a website.
And
But
what
I
they told you,
yeah, and
right?
I promise you that there's massive more complexity and dysfunction in that organization that you have absolutely no awareness around. You don't see it, and you're what I call living in oblivion. But the longer you stay in an organization, the more you become aware how jacked up the place is. And we all know those 25-year, 30-year employees who we say they know where all the bodies are buried around here because they've
Mhm.
seen all of the dirt, they've seen all of the failure, they've seen all of the injustice, the mistreatment, and everything that goes wrong. So they see and know everything. They're much more socially conscious to what's going on in the organization, but it doesn't necessarily make them a leader because a leader is a person who becomes aware of what they see as broken, unfair, and wrong, and makes the decision that they're going to do something to make it right. And what I mean make it right is that the world is inherently unfair. We know that. Companies are sometimes, some people get passed over for promotions who should get them. Other people, married the CEO's, niece and they got an opportunity. We know unfairness is going to exist. I'm never saying that unfairness is not going to exist. But the greatest leaders, the one who build a legendary legacy in every organization that they work in, are the ones who are conscious of that and aware of that unfairness and injustice and make a decision to do something to make it right. That they can't solve every problem, but they can at least try to do something every day to make it right. And my biggest mantra for them is that there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. Like if you started today and you were completely unaware, but in 2 weeks you learn something is wrong, the question is, what are you going to do to make it right? And when I say make it right, again, it is figuring out who is experiencing what's going wrong, who is having a bad experience, and then you doing something to try to make it better for that person. And that's what real leaders do, is that leaders come into organizations and many times they're hired in and things are not perfect in the organization. But the question is, are they going to do something to try to make it right? Or are they just going to perpetuate what they see as wrong because they benefit financially, they benefit positionally, they benefit economically, socially, politically, whatever ways. A lot of people will benefit from those things. And they say, you know what? I'm not going to do anything because I don't want to upset the apple cart. I don't want to make things worse for me or make things where I don't want to mess up anything.
Sure.
Well, it's already messed up if it's wrong. So the question is, what are you going to do to make it right?
Yeah. The heads down. I'm just gonna keep my head down, keep doing what I'm doing, collect a paycheck, and I'm
Yeah.
not here to do
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
else, right?
Yeah. I'm not here to solve
Heads
problems. I'm here
down.
to do a job. And
Mhm.
that mantra of I'm not here to solve problems, I'm here to do a job says to me, you don't deserve to be a leader. You don't.
Yeah, and so I love how you describe being aware combined with the responsibility. You're
Absolutely.
not gonna fix the world's problems overnight, but to
No.
your point, where can you effectuate change? Where can you have the hard conversations? It's funny, as you're saying this, so I spent a large portion of my corporate career in ethics and compliance, so I was not always the most popular leader in the room.
Absolutely
I
not.
often had to deliver not great news to
Yeah.
the C-suite and to the board.
Yes.
And it's funny, someone said to me, "How are you so confident when you walk into this room and have to, to have these conversations?" And I laughed because I said, "I don't think of myself as confident." But what I realized over time was it was integrity
Yes.
because being truthful and
Yeah.
honest and
Yeah.
telling them what they needed to hear
Yes.
was part of my ethos, part
Yes.
of my responsibility, part of my values of like, it wasn't just what I did, it was who I was
Yeah.
that made it easier for me. So when you realize that you have a responsibility and a duty to help others, regardless of what your title says,
Yeah.
I think that changes perspective.
Totally. And you actually made me remember a time when I was working for President Obama. Part of my role was to go give presentations on healthcare reform, the Affordable Care Act, or some people call it Obamacare. And
Yeah.
my job was to present the facts around the problem, the challenge, the number of people uninsured, the number of people with pre-existing conditions, tell them what we're trying to do to mitigate that situation, to improve that outcome. And it was at a time when politics in America was like super fierce. And so no matter what you said, somebody was going to have a problem with it.
Mhm.
But I was very comfortable taking a stage and delivering a presentation for 30 minutes to an hour, telling people the facts as I knew them at that point. And some people took that and ran with it. I'll never forget one time before I walked off the stage, a reporter in the room had already hit send on a tweet. That tweet got to Capitol Hill. It went from Capitol Hill to the Washington Post, from the Washington Post to this magazine. And then the phone was blowing up the White House complaining about what I said. Is this is what Anton said? Is this really true? Is this really true? And then I got that dreaded phone call, what I
Mhm.
call the phone call from the principal's office. That's what I
Yep.
called it. And when I got the call for a minute, I thought, am I going to lose my job? And then I made a decision. So you know what? I don't care if I lose my job because I know what I was doing was the right thing for the right reason. I'm never going to compromise the mission and compromise the purpose of what I'm here to do just to make somebody feel good or to keep things at peace. And so if I got to lose my job today, then I'm prepared to go because the mission
Mhm.
is more important than anybody's ego. And I ultimately didn't lose my job. They just wanted to confirm what I said and that I didn't make up anything. And of course I did not. And so they patted me on the back and said, keep doing a great job. And so I think that's what happens with so many leaders is that they get
Mhm.
so concerned about their position. They get concerned about perception around themselves and what people think about their role. So they sometimes might bend themselves into pretzels, compromising integrity or authenticity or even the mission. And again, the point of most organizations, for profit, nonprofit, government, there's a greater mission than anything else. It's not about profit, it's about serving the customers, it's about serving the patient, serving the student, serving the resident, whoever you're serving. That's what your mission is about. You're there to serve someone. And if you keep that at the forefront, then what I'm doing is about the stakeholders that we have the privilege of serving, then everything else falls to the wayside. And that was
Mhm.
real clear for me and sounds like it was clear for you. And that's when you do ethics and compliance, this is about safety. This is about doing things the right way for the right reason at the right time and then making sure everybody stays on their P's and Q's. There's nothing to be afraid of, or you don't need extra confidence when you're standing on the side of doing what's right.
Absolutely. And it's a great story that you share. I think it does prove that when you are in alignment, you are not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. You're
Absolutely.
leading by example and you're showing people, what integrity looks like in action. And I think one of the biggest breakdowns I see in leadership in the work that I do is you can't really lead others if you haven't learned to lead yourself, which is kind of what we're talking about. It's that integrity and standing, firm and grounded in who you are and
Mhm.
anchored in who you are and what you stand for. To your point, your mission, your purpose.
Mhm.
And so I'd love to talk a little bit more about this concept of self leadership. It also ties into the value piece because with the great resignation and so many people leaving, we're not
Yeah.
just leaving companies, we're not just leaving leaders, we're leading systems and cultures that don't align with our values
Yes.
that are really rubbing up against that. And I think
Yeah.
people are waking up to that. Like,
Yeah.
this is just not worth it anymore for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So I would love to talk about, what does self leadership look like in practice and how do you think about self leadership?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I do some limited executive coaching. I really only work with C-suite leaders, and particularly a lot of my clients are first timers in the C-suite. So this is their first time elevating themselves into an executive space. And what I find more than anything else, most of them got there and think what's going to keep them there is their credentials. They went to the right school, they got the right degree, they got the highest performance evaluations, they're meeting all of the KPIs. And so they build this brand or this facade that is tied to outcomes and are tied to external measurements. But
Mhm.
what they have not done is got comfortable accepting themselves for who they are. They literally come into the room wearing a mask or wearing some kind of bravado armor, pretending to be the leader that they think other people want to see in that space. And the first point of self leadership is first self acceptance. You have to accept yourself for who you are, what makes you unique, because you didn't get there because of the degrees and the credentials. You got there because of the person that you're made to be. So to be a self leader, you first got to have self acceptance. The second thing you got to have as a leader is to know your code. And when I say know your code, it's that point around values that every leader has a code. And when I use this phrase from one of my favorite TV shows. It's called The Wire. And there's a character on the show. His name is Omar, and he's
Mhm.
actually a guy who robs drug dealers. But he has a code. And his code is if you're not in the game, he doesn't bother you. He doesn't do anything on Sundays. He's not going to play anybody who's not trying to be played. He has a code. So if a guy who robs drug dealers on a TV show has a code, you got to have a code, and it shouldn't be the same. So I'll give you my code. It's 4 words, and these are my values that underscore me and everything that I do. My first value is service, because I believe service is the prerequisite of leadership. The second value is empowerment. And when I say empowerment, as a leader, you shouldn't just be giving a man a fish or a woman a fish. You should be teaching them how to fish, what bait to use, what type of rod or net to use, and where should they fish. It's not just give them the rod and say, go figure it out, but it's your job to equip them with the tools, the information, and the resources for them to be successful. Empowerment is my second value. My third value is the one that I hinted at when I talked about making it right, is justice. Again, I believe a leader's responsibility is to see the things that are unjust and try to make them right. Do something to make them right. And my fourth value is legacy. And that is, I'm not here for me today. I'm here to make things better for those that come along after me tomorrow. So I'm going to walk through and work through everything through that lens of service, empowerment, justice, and legacy. And so self-leadership requires you to know, what do you stand on? What do you believe in? What are your non-negotiables? What are the things that you won't, what lines you won't cross, what you won't give up, what you won't do, and what you will do because it aligns with who you are. And the third thing I would say is that once you have self-acceptance and once you figure out what your values are, what your code is to be unafraid to share those values with other people, because like attracts like. You will be repelled away from people who don't serve you, don't serve your values, and don't agree with your values, and you will attract a lot more. And the greatest leaders, the ones that we find throughout history, are some of the most admired people in the world. The people who we will always call legends is because they have a code, and we all knew what their code was. Mother Teresa, we know what her code was. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we know what his code was. Gandhi, we know what his code was. See, these are the legendary examples of leadership that have existed throughout time because the leaders who have a value system, who accept themselves for who they are and the path that they're on, they're unafraid to share their values. And they attract people to that light. And the people who are against it are repelled by it. And it helps them to be stronger, more confident in their ability to deliver for the people that they serve. That's where self-leadership sits with me.
So eloquently stated, and I love how you were able to just rattle off your core values. And I it's so fascinating to me because if you ask most leaders today what their core values are, most of them kind of look at you with that blank
Yeah.
stare, right?
Or they give you the company's values. That's the
Or
other
the
thing.
company's values.
Yeah.
You can rattle off the company's
Right,
values, but
right.
no, it's fascinating to me, and I think for me, the future of leadership, well, as we know, it's not just about getting results. It's about who you're impacting, how you lead, and understanding the impact of how your results are achieved. So I know in the work that you do, you talk about becoming legendary and
Yeah,
becoming a legendary leader, and I love how you kind of describe that.
yeah.
What do you think needs to shift as we think about this next generation of leaders?
Mhm. Yeah, this is one that I've been really doing some deep study around. We're approaching a point in the evolution of the United States of America with a whole generation of people. And I'm talking Gen Z. My daughter's in Gen Z. A whole generation who is rejecting leadership. They absolutely have no interest in being in a leadership role or being a leader. And so Gen X, millennials, late millennials, and early millennials are going to be burdened with being in a leadership position longer because you're going to have a whole generation of competent, capable people who can perform, who have no interest in leadership because of what they see today. The politics around leadership, the negative energy around leadership, what passes for leadership today, they don't want anything to do with it. So what's going to have to shift going forward is how we connect the dots for the next generation of leaders. And in my experience, what connects them is back being focused totally on the mission and the social context of what leaders should be doing. And I say social context is because Gen Z is known as a generation who really does know their values. Okay. They live their values and they will quit on an organization that doesn't share or reflect their values. They won't buy from an organization that doesn't share or reflect their values or can't articulate their values. And I've talked to enough CEOs who are, mid 50s, early 60s, who says, Anton, we make widgets. Why in the world does my employees care about my position on the Dobbs decision? Why do my employees care about my position on automatic weapons? What does that have to do with our widgets? And I remind them it has absolutely nothing to do with their widgets, but it has everything whether they believe in you as a leader. They don't expect you to agree with them at all. They just want to know, do you believe in something? Do you have a code? Do you have some values? And what are those values are? And are you willing to share those values? And so I think what has to shift is this whole context of understanding that organizations have to be completely connected to their social mission. Like whatever that most social mission, doesn't matter if you're a tech company, doesn't matter if you're a retail company or you're Zapato selling shoes. We all know that reason why they became a best-selling company is because there was a mission attached to their ability to sell shoes. Like what's the purpose for your existence? And it can't just be the bottom line. It has to be something bigger. And a whole generation of people want to be a part of something bigger. They want to be leaders when there's an opportunity to be a part of something bigger. And the leaders who figure that out, who learn how to serve, empower, and lead people towards that mission will be the ones who become legendary. They'll be the ones that we continue to talk about because they are the ones who shape the future of business and industry, not because of the bottom line, but because of how they connected to the social mission of their business and what it looks like.
So fascinating what you just said. I wish I had the mind blown emoji right now. What you just said about Gen Z, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. 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 It's real.
Scary.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah. It is.
But what I'm hearing you say, like, we were motivated by title and money. And for
Yeah.
a lot of us, you and I were talking even before we started recording about some of our families and cultures
Yeah.
have expectations about
Yes.
what we're supposed to be when
Yes.
we grow up. And now it's so different.
Yeah.
It's, are you aligned with what matters to me?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's even more specific, like, I got a 21-year-old who, again, she's around her dad a lot. I talk about leadership. I tell her to be a leader. I mean, since she started school, I was like, here's the 4 things you gotta do today. You gotta be safe, you gotta learn something, you gotta have fun, and be a leader and not a follower. I told her that every day from the day that she started school, right? So she knows how important it is, but she is not at all interested in being anybody's boss. She says, I'm skilled and capable. I want to use my skills and do a job and be great at the job. That's what she wants to do. And I'm finding there's so many other peers are in that same space.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so we got to reorient in how we think about what leadership looks like and incentivize them to seek out leadership roles. And the money is not an incentive, especially in a world where they can just choose to go make videos online and get paid to make videos, or they can drive Uber or gig work their way to pay for their house, their car, their mortgage, and everything else, right? So they can make the money. That's not going to help them to become who we need them to be. It's got to be something bigger, and that's what I think most of us are forgetting, that it has to be something bigger.
I love that. So, Anton, this has been such an incredible conversation. Just before we wrap up, for our listeners
Yeah.
who are either, leaders with titles or lateral leaders or leading families, if there's, someone listening who wants to lead differently, more consciously, what's the first shift that they should make?
Yeah, the first thing is to decide that you want to lead. And when I say decide, I mean, you can think it to yourself, but my first framework is to express your desire to lead. Matthew 7:7 says, ask and you shall receive, knock and it shall be opened unto you. So my context is if you want something, you have to ask for it. So if you want to lead, you got to ask for opportunities, whether it be in the workplace, whether it be at home, whether it be in your family, whether it be in your community. You got to ask for the opportunity. And then when provided the opportunity, you got to be equipped to serve. And so I'm going to give a free resource for everybody watching. If you want this, it's a leadership toolkit. It's called my Just Lead Toolkit. You go to antongunn.com/toolkit, and it's right there for you. You can give me an email address. I'll send you a toolkit that shares with you some of the techniques that I share in my presentations to show you how to just lead, how to have that level of impact. And then I'll give you a bonus resource of the 10 qualities of world-class leaders that will show you how you become a legendary leader. But it all starts with you verbalizing that which you want more of. If you want to lead more and you want to do more, you have to say to the people around you, I want to lead more. And then they will share with you, what do you need to do right now? Because it first starts with being a servant first before you try to lead people.
Such great advice. Anton, thank you. This has been an incredible conversation. I want to thank you for being here, for sharing your story, your insights, and your expertise.
Well, thank you for having me. It's beautiful to be a part of a great program, and I wouldn't be here without you.
Thank you so much, Anton. And where can our listeners find you and learn more about you and the work that you do?
Yes, antongunn.com is the home for all things Anton. If you want to find me on LinkedIn, it's Anton J. Gunn. Really much on all platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can find me in any of those places. Anton J. Gunn, and that's 2 N's on Gunn.
Perfect. And we'll have the link in the show notes as well. Thanks again, Anton.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. If this landed, share it with a friend who's having the same thoughts at 2 a.m. And if you want more conversations like this, stick around because this is where we make shift happen. Take care. All right, shifters, before you jump back into your day or back into your thoughts, if something from this conversation stuck with you, that's not random. A shift doesn't happen because you push harder. It happens when you stop ignoring the thing that keeps coming back. So here's your only ask. If this episode made you think of someone, send it to them. That's how these conversations are spread. Quietly, honestly, person to person. This is What the Shift.